I fell in love with this some time ago. I finally bought it and I'm gonna share my thoughts on it with you. At the top we have lavender, bergamot and sage, and then we have saffron, coriander and nutmeg. And at the base we have labdanum, tonka bean and leather. So I'm gonna spray on paper, on hand, and of course up in the air. This opening definitely has quite a prominent dose of spiciness, and I'm picking up on something aromatic-ish. But I can't say I'm getting like a super clean, super bright kind of lavender here. And even though this is quite intensely spicy in the opening, I don't find the spiciness of it to be over the top or sharp in any way. There's a smoothness to its spiciness. And like a minute or two into the dry down, that's when I feel the lavender starts to come through more and actually sort of smell like lavender. So the opening through sort of a bit into the mids is, at least to me, quite intensely spicy, backed up by a dose of lavender. Now, if you smell this off paper, the spiciness definitely comes off as a bit sort of sharper. And as this thing heads into the mids, in comes what I feel is sort of a smooth, if that makes sense, smooth animalic side to it. And I do think that if you put your nose to this, this is when you will either absolutely start to love this scent or feel that you don't enjoy it at all. And that sort of sums up the opening through to the mids. This opens up quite intensely spicy, however I do feel that its spiciness is of the smooth kind. On paper that spiciness comes off a bit sort of a sharper. As this goes sort of into the mids, the lavender in it starts to grow in intensity. However, I don't feel the lavender ever sort of takes over. I also don't feel that the lavender in here is of the overly sort of a bright and fresh kind. The lavender sort of balances up that initial dose of intense spiciness. And as this thing hits the mids, there's quite a noticeable animalic side popping through, together with quite a prominent dose of amberiness. So quite a rich spicy with a dose of lavender, an animalic side. It's not overly animalic though, but there's definitely an animalic side to this fragrance, and it's quite ambery. So the opening through to the mids is definitely a nice one if you enjoy this kind of scent. However, I do not think the opening through to the mids is something that blows my mind. It's not something that blows me away. However, when this starts to dry down, that's when it really starts to shine. The dry down is where I feel that that animalic side that popped in the mids starts to soften up quite a bit. So that part is the most intense in the mids. And in comes one of the, perhaps not the softest, but an incredibly soft, smooth and warm dose of leather, together with quite a noticeable dose of amberiness and a soft dose of tonka underneath it all. That soft dose of tonka in the background gives this slight hint of sweetness, a bit of nuance to its warmth, and really just makes the overall thing a lot sexier. So the first part of the dry down, at least to me, is intensely ambery, but smooth ambery. It also has a very prominent dose of leather, but that leather is incredibly smooth. And in the background you have a fantastic dose of a slightly sweet vanilla. Now that part of this fragrance is what I think absolutely fantastic, because it never goes into something that is overly vanillic. This is still primarily a super smooth, warm, leathery and ambery scent. But that vanilla in the background really adds something quite sexy to it. To someone else, this will come across as something that is intensely leathery, perhaps even raw leathery. But to me, this is more of a smooth and in a way a sort of an easy to wear kind of leather scent. If I compare this to some of my other leather fragrances, this is nowhere near as raw, leathery. It's not of the super sort of a smoky, heavy, deep kind of leather scent. Now I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think this is a heavy, deep, raw and sort of a smoky kind of leather, or do you agree with me on this, that this is more of a smooth and sort of an easy to wear kind of leather? So this is definitely a classic kind of scent, but mixed with a dose of sexiness. This is when you want a classic kind of leather scent, but with a bit of an edge. When it comes to performance, this is definitely a potent fragrance. This to me leans more towards something strong, but perhaps not quite beast mode. And you really don't need a lot of sprays with this to get noticed. And when it comes to longevity, this stays on my skin for a long time. So here are my thoughts on usage, so like versatility, occasions and seasons. When it comes to occasions, I'm gonna say, I mean, you can wear this to work if you want, but I really do feel that this is like special occasions, going out or date night kind of scent. So less for work and more for like having fun, going out and stuff like that. When it comes to seasons, this is quite warm, spicy and leathery scent, and even though I do feel that the leather is more of a smooth kind, this is still quite a warm scent. So I do feel that this is something that is absolutely perfect for winter and fall, but I mean, you can use this springtime as well. With that said, I do feel that this is absolutely a perfect date night scent if you love the scent of leather and if you want a scent that will really make you stand out. So who's this fragrance for? I do think that the sort of a baseline for even taking a look at this is that you should know that you enjoy leathery scents, because this has a very prominent, but at least to me, smooth dose of leather. You should also enjoy quite ambery and warm and spicy scent, because this is exactly that. Now with that said, if you are someone who absolutely loves leather scents, then at least to me, I think you should know that at least to me, this is not of the super deep, raw, super smoky kind of leather. So don't expect that kind of leather in here. If you're someone who absolutely dislikes or hates leathery scents, then yeah, this is not for you. So what about some alternatives to this? Even though I have a lot of leather fragrances, I actually don't have a lot of leather fragrances that are soft like this. But I do want to mention one, and that is Hugo Boss The Scent Le Parfum. They are not the same, but the reason I want to mention this is because Hugo Boss The Scent Le Parfum, at least to me, is a very smooth and very easy to wear kind of leather scent that's quite woody and quite powdery. This is absolutely gorgeous if you love leathery scents and want probably one of the most easy to wear kind of leather scents. However, these two are not the same, but I do want to mention this as an alternative. So how am I going to rate 6 Place Saint Sulpice from YSL? Now the reason why I bought this, and I actually think this is quite an expensive scent, is because I absolutely love it. There's something quite intoxicating about how extremely smooth and sort of a warm that leather is. But here's the thing, I'm pretty sure that what I'm absolutely sort of addicted to is that addition of its sweetness and the vanilla. So even though that part of it is not taking over in any way, this is not overly sweet, it's not overly vanillic, the touch of the vanilla and the sweetness behind that smooth leatheriness and its amberiness is what I think really sort of pulls me in and makes me addicted. This to me is a perfect rebel. Now I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments. How do you feel about 6 Place Saint Sulpice? Do you think, like I do, in that this is a masterpiece, or do you absolutely hate it, or do you think this is like an average kind of scent?